Oh, and hey. Okay, a day. Boo Bear, baby. Let's have us a day today. Let's start it with some panty play, and then we'll go somewhere. Me. I forgot to mention this, of course, in my last audio presentation because I'm a dumb fuck. When I say work the tongue around the head of the dick, I mean the top of the tongue. Because it's like the textured, because underneath it's like all different, I mean, you can do it both, but I say make like the triangle with your pointer fingers and your thumbs under my balls. Hold the dick down and lick kind of the top that way and kind of lick like up and down, for lack of a better word, back and forth across the cum hole. And then use like the tip of your tongue, kind of, don't like bury it down in there, but just sort of hold it and kind of move my dick around with your tongue, looking up at me all cute and shit. And when I had mentioned, when I have my hands on your hips, when you're straddling me, and rocking back and forth, be it the butt cleavage, thong, working angles, no thong, lube, no lube, panty smooth groove, which will be no lube. I feel like I should mention this, but I wish I would have when I said I'm going to have my hands on your hips. I'm not just going to have my hands just glued to your hips. I'm going to be rubbing, my hands up and down your stomach and like the sides of your ass cheeks, and down your thighs, and stuff like that. So I just feel it important that I, state that, inject that, interject that, whatever. Because I forgot to. I do that frequently, Like sometimes I've even not posted videos, and would mention it later in a different video, or just do it over. Where it's like, I didn't post that because that might be misinterpreted as, fake butthole shit, when it's actually butt cheek shit. Butt crack. Like I said, butt cheeks, butt crack, and that crease where that meets thigh. The butthole is something that you just work around. Your dick might touch it, it might slide over it, you might see it. You want to try and avoid smelling it, because even though, like, if you wash and stuff, just it's a different type of skin, and it's just like it kind of just because of the nature of what it does, so be mindful of that. Just saying, you know what I mean? So. Because, like I said, humans are humans. And I can only speak for myself. And when I say I can only speak for myself, no kidding, right? Whiff of dirty ass, is. And like I said, it could. When I say dirty, you just got out of the shower, It's like that's the. That's its role in life, So. No, I'm at 4 minutes. I'm gonna let this run out to like 4:15. Kind of good. So I find that important. So Katie Boo, when you're rocking your hips back and forth, I'm not just gonna be like this statue, like one of them little whatever, my hands just stuck on your hips. Now I'm gonna be rubbing you down, girl. You're gonna be rubbing your panty, butt cheeks back and forth with my dick, but I'm gonna be rubbing my hands all over you. Same thing like if you're leaning up against me, face to face, and my dick's up, and you work your hips or I work my hips or both, be it panty smooth groove or just on your butt cheeks, I'm gonna be feeling you up. I'm gonna be grabbing your ass cheeks and slapping them together, and Rubbing my hands up your back, and kind of down your thighs, Make a swipe kind of gently on your inner thigh, just like with one finger, just real light, But that would be you getting me off, or two fingers, or the hand. It depends, the whole hand. Because then you got the warmth. Now, I do have manly paws, so I've got like thick skin and calluses on my hands, Like I remember when I was a kid, I had playing in the sandbox, I developed calluses. And I went in and I was like, Mommy, I got sand under my skin. And she's like, those are calluses. How does a 4-year-old kid develop calluses? So, and I wasn't just building a sandcastle, I was building like a fortress. I remember one time, I was probably like 22 years old, I took a vacation with my grandma on my dad's side, and we went to somebody's house, and there was a kid out there, and he was a little kid, he was like, like he was like a toddler, right? And I was just out there, just sort of whatever. I don't know how I wound up out there, with this kid or whatever, but we were in the sandbox, and like I said, I wasn't doing the whole, oh, show me your toy, oh, wow, I talked to him like a little human, so I don't know, what you got there? Why do you do that? Just whatever, more. I don't baby talk him, So I remember doing that, and I caught myself, and I was like, this kid doesn't appreciate what you're saying. So I remember I was like, he had like a plastic tank, and I was like, what you want to do is, you want to like dig this hole and drive the tank down in it, so all that's exposed is the top turret, which is still, that's all you need, that you hit where between the body and the turret, and plus that's where they store the ammo, so, but at least, hey, it's a little better. But I remember, and then I was, I got some grass, and I was like, and then what you want to do is, you want to cover up the top of the turret so the enemy can't see it, and this is just a little toddler, he just doesn't even know what this thing is. He doesn't even recognize it as a weapon of war that's going to, end people's lives. But that's funny. I know no other way than to be practical. Shit. And then you still got the turret, So you want to go get some these sticks? These represent branches, right? So it depends on the surrounding area, of course, but we'll pretend in our scenario that there's some trees nearby. So you got the turret, and then you're just chilling. So aerial, photography, but then the foliage has to look, it needs to not be out of place. It doesn't do much good, if you're out here in a field and there's, a rectangle-shaped, bush with, branches extending out the front. See, that's not good, and just, I remember that. So, just a little kid. I'm out there talking tactical military maneuvers, So, like I said, I was never in the service or anything like that. I'm not joking. I'm not saying that to try to be funny, I was like, now the enemy can't see him, Yeah. And he's just out there like, takes a scoop of sand, dumps it on his head or whatever the hell babies do. I don't remember. Well, it wasn't a baby, but, so. Anyway. And I remember he made like soup, with grass and rocks, in a little plastic bucket. And he's all like, take it away. And I was like, where do you want me to take it? And he's all like, just take it away. When you grow up, you're going to have, solutions to problems. You want me to just take it away? I'm going to have to take it somewhere, and then I'm going to have to dump it out. What are we doing here?